recent months, the City Council has raised the amount for parking fines, authorized towing during snow days, and instituted fees for parking downtown. Would you vote to reverse these policies or uphold them?
All right, can I start with this one? Yes. All right. So, first off, it appears to me that the city is just looking for ways to increase its revenue through fines and other regulations, when if there's such a crisis with their budget every year, I think that they should be looking for decreasing in spending somewhere. There's got to be somewhere where we can decrease in spending and not punish those citizens with the fines. So that addresses the first part of the question, and then also the downtown parking is a big concern of mine. I hear all the time about how downtown we're struggling with small business. Well, it's a great incentive to bring people to those small businesses if they're allowed to park for free in those parking garages. Now, we're already paying for those parking garages through our taxes, so why do we have to pay twice now? I don't think that is fair. I don't think that that hurts or that helps the small businesses that we need to help develop and create jobs. And I think that we need to have that parking for free. Now, another thing that brings is possibly drunk driving incidences. Now, you go downtown and you have a few beers or a few drinks, and then you get in your car because you don't want to pay that fine and leave your car there overnight. I think that that could lead to more incidences, and we don't want that to happen. So I do not think that we should be paying for downtown parking. I think that's just a nuisance, another ridiculous fine that we need to pay for.
Yeah, it was part of the argument for putting the parking garages there, that they wouldn't be charged, that there wouldn't be fees, and of course things change and situations change. Every city you go to, you pay for parking. So I suppose if Crosse wants to think that it's a bigger town and a bigger city, and who knows? You know, maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't scare business away. I think there's a lot more we can do to inspire business in downtown La Crosse. We have to work toward community solutions for making use of upper floors of buildings. You know, there are many more issues, more important, I think, than the parking issue. I think parking really, we're spoiled by being able to park directly in front of wherever we choose to shop, and if we can't, we're offended. And that's a little bit not necessary. I think that walking a block or two, there are plenty of places you can find a spot. If you go around the block once or twice and aren't afraid to wander off down a side street, you can find a spot. So the parking issue, I think, is not as critical as people make it out to be. And we'll see. I think we're going to be paying for parking. That's just the direction it's going to go.
That's a reasonable point.
No.
No, I didn't.
No, not.
Sorry.
I thought it was your turn.
That's right.
I'm presuming you people may be keeping track of your turns, but we'll try
She's
to
more
help.
brief than we are.
Thank you for your response.
Okay, and I got a little more than
I haven't started timing you yet, Audrey.
No, it's just showing the 1 minute sign.
You can use your minute, however.
All right, I'm starting now.
Anyway, first of all, if the question addressed the garbage can lids. I was the person who introduced the resolution to cancel that requirement because it was something that was totally inappropriate in my mind, given the fact that a new garbage contract is going to be set within the next year or so, and it will be a totally moot issue. It was not right to go after people who didn't have covers on their lids, even though it's better when your garbage is tidier, and that is very important in this neighborhood. The parking references, parking is not free. The city in its capital budget and in its operating budget is paying off the cost of building the parking ramps. It also pays for the cost of maintaining the streets and everything else that is related to parking, so that it is not free. And in order to improve the cleanliness of the parking ramps, that's one, and the safety within the parking ramps, that is one of the major reasons that we are going to control the parking ramps and charge. But there will be 4 hours free.
Excuse me.
In all of the ramps for the first 4 hours. And it's an ongoing process. but we are working very, very hard to be fair and equitable for the parking ramps, or for all the parking issues. That was the bulk of the triple fines. Again, that is in order to cause the repeat offenders to stop repeating their offenses. And in Wisconsin, we can garnish their payroll, but most of the unpaid fines are from Minnesota and Iowa, and so that's a problem. We don't have reciprocity.
Okay, new question?
Recently,
And Laura, is this a question from the Democrats or from the College Dems or the College Republicans?
this question is from the College Republicans. Recently, the City Council voted to eliminate the Committee of the Whole and the citizens' only opportunity to address their City Council as a whole. Would you vote for any proposal that reduces the public input to their City Council?
Did everyone in the audience hear the question? Okay, will you repeat it a little louder, please, Laura?
Yeah. Recently, the City Council voted to eliminate the Committee of the Whole, the citizens' only opportunity to address their City Council as a whole. All the City Council members are together, and the public can address them. It's basically like a public hearing. So, would you vote for any proposal that reduces the public input to their City Council?
And in this round of questioning, does Jerome get to go
Jerome
first?
goes first.
Thank you.
No, of course not. I would not vote to suppress the voice of the people before their elected officials. I think it's a ridiculous thought the only time you could address the entire council was in the Committee of the Whole. And so many hoops are put up by our city government to try to get your point across that I think this is one of the biggest failures of our city government. And frankly, if this is something Audrey supported, I think it's a huge failure to try to eliminate a chance to be able to address the council. I think it's their duty to listen to what the people in the city want and what they'd like to have done. And I think that certainly there has to be efficiencies built into their process, but when they spend as much time talking about chickens and not talking about keeping costs down and looking for efficiencies in government, I think that there's something wrong with the system. And I know from dealing with remodeling, as a remodeling contractor, it'll take about 100 hours of time to try to get the permits and all the committee meetings and the Committee of the Whole and speaking to getting something accomplished. And then go to public meetings afterwards, beforehand and afterwards, and have a council member bring it up in public meeting and give you a tongue lashing before the public and exercise her power of being in her position. And I don't appreciate it, and it's one of the reasons I'm running. Audrey Cotter's a bully, and I don't like her to be as inflexible and rude as she's been to me, and as she's been to our mayor. I think it's a big reason she's being recalled.
Dean, you have a response to that? Okay, Audrey?
I'm not going to get into that because this is, well, I'm just speechless in relation to that. I will just answer the question. The majority of the input that we receive from citizens of the city is telling us that there are too many public hearings and in order to get their business done. And Jerome just made the case for me, actually, when he said as a building contractor he has to go to so many different meetings and so on and so forth. Many, many government entities have various different forms of public input and public hearings. A council member made a motion that was approved that I did not support in relation to abolishing the Committee of the Whole. We have looked, it's been going on, there have been about 14 different votes in relation to it. 2 of them I supported because they were compromise positions. That is the situation. And I certainly am always interested to hear the other people's side and to attempt to balance the needs of all sides. You cannot make everybody happy, but you can listen to them, and you can make an effort to be polite and treat them decently, which is what I believe I generally do. Maybe on occasion I've lost it with one or two people, but we won't go any farther with that one.
Bully.
I think
For your honesty.
Well, from what I just heard, did you vote finally to abolish committee of the whole? Because I know that you voted not in favor of it
Yes.
last time.
I voted all the way along the line, except with the exception of trying it for 3 months, which I reckoned was a fair compromise to see.
She voted for it.
Hey, I don't think we need it from the audience, please.
Oh, I thought that was a girl up there.
All right. Please, go ahead.
Okay, well, anyways, I believe that the committee of the whole meeting is a unique transparency that our city government has. And I don't think that we should want to abolish it, we should try and keep it. I think it's something that the city government should be proud of. Now, earlier, when they were debating whether or not to get rid of the committee of the whole, I voiced my own concern in losing the committee of the whole. And I know that students might not come often to the committee of the whole meetings, but to have that opportunity to address the entire council is something that really you should hold dear, because it is important. Now, when I think of a city council meeting, I think of an opportunity for the public and elected officials to collaborate and cooperate with each other. And I think that this was an opportunity to do that, and we have now lost that opportunity.
Thanks.
All right. The next question for the candidates comes from the College Democrats. What can students do for you to improve communication, and how can students have a voice with the city council if indeed the committee of the whole is eliminated? Is there a different process in place whereby students can voice their concerns?
Jerome was first.
I was.
Audrey has this one.
Sorry.
How can we improve communication
With students.
with students?
If the committee of the whole is impactful.
Well, the communication is much more important, in my opinion, the ongoing communication and the openness to have the students and all citizens to be in contact with them. And in fact, there's a resolution coming through now that Councilmember Johnson introduced recently, certainly with my support, that actually it was in conjunction with the development of the whole committee of the whole question, is that a public hearing could be held prior to the council meeting itself. So this whole thing has been so convoluted, and in actual fact, Gage, with all due respects, but the committee of the whole is still in place, and it has not been put
It's
aside.
suspension.
No, it is, right now, it is not anymore under
we'll keep it that way.
consideration.
Keep it
Yeah,
that way.
well, that's my position all along.
But you voted against it. I don't understand.
She
Only
did.
as a compromise, short term. Okay,
30 seconds. Any other?
there's nothing more for me really to say about that.
All right, well, this question directly refers to students, and this is a very unique opportunity for students to have a student running for city council. You could actually have your own representative on city council. And what a great way to improve communication between the city council and the students by having a representative. I think I'm an approachable guy. I mean, I'm on campus every day in class. You can come up to me, and if you have concerns or criticism or suggestions, I'm happy to take it in and listen to what you have to say as a student. And you can just come to me, and I mean, emails, you can shoot me an email or any questions and I'll respond to you. And I think that it's a great opportunity for Viterbo to have a student running, and the students should relish this opportunity.
The city council is about guiding the city and balancing between the people in the city and the way the government runs. What the council has done in the last years is create more and more hurdles. And I remember Audrey saying years ago that she would work to streamline the processes in City Hall. It hasn't happened. This is a failure. It's gotten more difficult. There have been suggestions that we need signatures to come before certain committees or we won't be allowed to speak. There have been people in this room even that have tried to bring up issues that are very pertinent to efficiencies within government. And you would think that the council, the ones that are charged with looking over the city and being the checks and balances on the operations of the departments of the city of La Crosse, would look for efficiencies and would try to streamline. No, what they've focused on is trying to insulate themselves from the wishes of the people and ignore, when 60% of the people vote down different issues, ignore those wishes and say, we're just going to try it again next time. We're going to push through the city administrator to have an unaccountable, unelected official and replace our mayor, because we don't like what the mayor stands for, despite the fact he was duly elected and actually liked by a large number of the people in the public. It was constant dysfunction for the past years in the council. And I think that has to change. There has to be cooperation. There has to be more collaboration. And Audrey may say that she listens, but she doesn't change her mind. And she will stick to her guns. And that stubbornness doesn't belong in city council.
Do you have a point? Can we stop this point of clarification? You willing to do that? Is it indeed not the fact that the city council voted to suspend the council of the whole and the mayor vetoed the council's motion and the council was unable to override the mayoral veto? Is that indeed the case, so that we at least in the audience know the facts of the matter?
That's correct.
I think that is indeed how the procedure took place.
All right, another question from the College Republicans. Over the past few years, while giving millions to corporations and forcing businesses to change their signs to how the city sees fit, the city council has voted to give millions of taxpayer dollars to the wealthiest corporations in the area. Would you continue this trend and support programs to give taxpayer money to private industries, and or would you support lowering taxes for individuals and businesses in La Crosse?
I think it's Gage's turn to go first.
Well, I do not believe that we should continue with the TIF policy that our city has enacted for many years now. I don't think that it is the city government's job to be picking who wins and who loses in this situation. I think that that is a slippery slope for a government to be on. I don't think that we should be giving this power to any government, let alone any city government. To address the sign ordinance, I think that that was also ridiculous, and I think that that was somewhat anti-business in a way. To promote small business, we should have more signs. Now, I just think that if we want to promote small businesses and you want to have entrepreneurs come into La Crosse and you want to start your business here in La Crosse, why come to La Crosse if you can't even advertise the way that you want to? I disagree with that. And also, if this whole issue started over a electronic billboard, that saves plenty of space. Why not have more electronic billboards? I think those look much nicer than a traditional billboard. And also, for lowering taxes, I would consider lowering taxes in many places, but most importantly, I think that small businesses should have a lesser burden, especially when we want to grow those small businesses and promote job growth within La Crosse. And also, we want to have more people start up their small businesses here, which deals with lower taxes and with the sign ordinance.
Those corporations that benefit, Quick Trip, I think is the most recent TIF that was put through. They're the biggest hirers in town. So there is some attention that needs to be given to these companies. I think the original idea of a TIF was to try to help the people, not the companies. So I think it's a misuse of the TIF process. I think we have to get it back to what the idea of a TIF was for, if we're going to use them in the future. I prefer not. I think we should retire our TIFs, and I think the regulation is out of whack. And I think that what we have to really pay attention to, Reuben Train, if he tried to start the train company the way he started it back when he, in his garage, started a business, we wouldn't be allowed to do that today. We would get shut down by zoning infraction and neighborhood overlay violation. We're almost crushing small business by our overregulation, and by adding hundreds of thousands of dollars of fees to the existing businesses and existing people in the community. We're not allowing people to hire. We're not allowing people to start the garage business, move into a storefront. We're pushing people out of La Crosse. And I've spoken to people that have built businesses in many cities throughout the region. La Crosse is the hardest city to deal with because of their burdensome regulation process, their sign ordinances, the multitude of trips to City Hall. We are way too focused on ourselves in the City Council and the City Administration building. We need to find a way to make La Crosse work better, and that's more cooperatively instead of endless fees.
You guys are doing great. You know, I just now have to turn it.
I am proud to have been a supporter and continue to be a supporter of the TIF districts. And I'll tell you why. Because the increase in tax base that has been provided through the development that has happened in the TIF districts has created jobs, it has improved the environment, it has, and again, as I say, it has improved the tax base very, very significantly. The employment in the downtown area now is, just in the most recent TIF, in the downtown area, recent TIF, is over 2,000 people every day have good paying jobs that are important to people. This would not have happened without the TIF. We have the industrial park out on Highway 16. There are so many examples of how much benefit the TIFs have created, and they will continue to, even when they're paid. Currently, they're paying off the debt to establish them, in addition to the employment they're providing. The La Crosse Centre, think of all the business that's brought into town because of the La Crosse Centre. That could not have been built without a TIF. And La Crosse Centre in its own right does not even contribute to taxes to pay off that TIF. It's being helped by all the businesses that have developed. So I do not apologize to anyone for my support of the TIFs. They are really good for everybody. They're good for Viterbo. I mean, the community is the better, it's more attractive even for Viterbo. And then there are jobs when you graduate. Those are reasons why the TIFs should be continued. So as I say, no apologies on that score. And that's really all I have to say about that issue.
This is our last question of the evening, and then we'll move into closing statements. And this is from the College Democrats. How would you, or have you, provided leadership on the City Council, including working with people with differing opinions?
Well, I think that that's what the council is for. The council is for a forum to listen to opinions and to listen to each other and to really hear points of view from both sides and talk it out. The council is not a place to make a decision that you aren't going to work with someone, you aren't going to cooperate, and you're going to be a blockade rather than a cooperative element. And I think that we've seen a lot of dysfunction in the council. It's been a very stubborn council and hasn't accomplished a lot. It's fought what the people of the city want in favor of what the city government wants. Now, it's good for the city government if the city can afford it, but I'm afraid that the people in the city are paying the bills. And the problem that I've seen is that I think right now the council thinks of all the taxpayers in La Crosse as their credit card, and that they can max out that card, and endless TIFs has maxed out our credit. being the highest tax city and the highest tax state is not a very proud fact. And I think that they should look to see why other cities can operate various branches of city government at a much more efficient rate than what La Crosse is doing. La Crosse has so many inefficiencies, and you can't even track it down because there's not a good accounting process in La Crosse. So there are certain things that have to change, and that has to be by leadership on the council to press the department heads within the city. Do we know how many department heads we have? Dozens. It's huge. It's a huge city, and it's growing faster and faster in the last few years. So we have to really watch what we're doing in the city of La Crosse fiscally in order to... It's not going to all happen because government provides money for new TIF processes. It's going to happen when La Crosse thrives.
Audrey?
Okay. I responded to the tip question.
We're on
We're on a different
leadership.
question.
Okay.
Number 6.
Okay, the leadership on the city council. First of all, people have placed significant, burden is probably not the correct word, but they appear to think that the council president has more clout than the mayor at city council. My responsibility is to, as city council president, is to oversee the smooth functioning of the council itself. And in dealing with the council members, I try to work with them to, they call me frequently to ask for various questions and so on. I generally direct them to where they will get the accurate answers. I explain where I'm coming from in relation to issues, but then I always end up with saying, but it's up to you to make your own mind up in relation to this issue. And that is how I think it should be even with the citizens as well. The City Council is much more than a forum. It is operating a $74 million business. We are responsible for operating a $74 million business. And in overseeing it, we have also got to work within the constraints put on us by the state. We hear our citizens say, yes, we want more and more services, but we also want lower taxes. We have to try and balance that. It is a huge business, over 300 employees. Every one of them isn't perfect. Every council member isn't perfect. I'm not perfect. And we have to work together to do what we believe is best for the majority of the citizens. So that it is not just a forum that has to set up and stand and listen to people who don't know the full story. Their interests, their intent may well be good, but that doesn't mean that they have studied the issue in depth.
Now, a part of leadership is being able to bring people together, not just within the elected officials and city council and the government, but also with the public. I think the city council has forgotten that they do work for the public, and the public needs to have a voice with them. We need to listen to their concerns. Now, to take a value out of a turbo, the servant leadership, I think we need to be listening to more of the people who we represent. Now, through servant leadership, we will be able to listen to the people, address their concerns within the city council, and make our city council a lot better through collaboration and cooperation. Now, as for me providing leadership, I think that I would provide leadership in a different way. I'd be a fresh voice for the city council. Sometimes it takes an outsider's perspective really to get people together through leadership. And servant leadership, something that we learn here at the Turbo that I think that we need to enact more of in the city council.
Closing statements, Jerome, since you went last in the opening statements, you go first in the closing, then we'll move our way down.